All right, hello everybody. My name is Derek Demeter. I'm the Planetarium Director at the Emil Buehler Planetarium, and joining us is, of course, Justin Cirillo, the Planetarium Specialist, and we have a special guest. We have Jackie Baughman from Williamsville Space Lab and Planetarium, and she is going to join us today in exploring many of the claims regarding astrology. Yes, I know many of us have heard. I know all of us have been told a few times, what is it like to study astrology, right? I'm sure we all had those experiences a few times throughout our times working in the planetarium field. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore some of the claims that are mentioned in astrology, and we're going to put them to the test to science and see what we can learn from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go get started here real quick. But before we do that, Jackie, I would like to introduce you officially. And if you want to spend a few moments just quickly chatting about what you do and anything else that you would like to mention real quick before we begin.
Sure. I am Jackie, and I have worked in planetariums for 10 years now, and I am a graphic designer. So I have done a lot of graphic design and art and advertisement and stuff like that for different planetariums and different astronomy related things. So I'm mainly an artist, and I'm a little bit too obsessed with astronomy. So that's about it.
It's never bad to be obsessed with astronomy. I think
Right.
all of us who are into astronomy are what we would call obsessed.
Yeah.
You kind of catch the bug real hard when you get addicted to astronomy. And now, for those that are watching, stick around at the very end. We're going to have a chance to quickly chat a little bit about Jackie's kind of role. Believe it or not, she in the past kind of delved into astrology and kind of let's take a look a little bit of her venture into the astronomy world as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to officially start our program. And if you all are ready, we will begin with our program. And of course, like always, Justin will be handling the comment section below. So if you have a question or a comment that you would like to bring up, just let us know. And of course, we'd be happy to answer those questions while we go on through the presentation. So anyways, is everyone ready to get started? All right, let's go for it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So let me do that real quick. All right, there we go. All right, I just realized I had one issue here. Got to change that real quick. All right, fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of explore a little bit about astrology and astronomy real quick. And then we're going to go ahead and explore a program that we use in the planetarium world called Stellarium. And I know Jackie's going to be our expert on that today, exploring some of these things through the Stellarium software. Now, first things first, as I said before, astronomy and astrology, those words are very, very similar. And sometimes we all get mixed up. I mean, it's kind of like cosmetology and cosmology. I mean, those are also something that mix up. And I've always made this joke at some point in my life, I'm going to open up a cosmology, salon or whatever, where you cut your hair and you explain the universe. Astronomy and astrology, these are very confusing. So what I want to do here is I want to talk about kind of the difference between the two real quick visually. So here we have our famous astronomer. This is actually Edwin Hubble. And stereotypically, when you think of an astronomer, you think of some person up on a big mountaintop. They usually, probably have a pipe in their mouth, and they look very academic. They look very astute. And Edwin Hubble was a very famous astronomer. He's done some really incredible studies, and of course, opened up our universe. No pun intended on that. Because without Edwin Hubble's contributions to astronomy, we would still be in many ways in the dark ages of astronomy. Also, we have here Andrea Mallis. Andrea Mallis is actually a famous sports astrologer, particularly with baseball. She reads star charts for athletes, and again, particularly baseball athletes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin. I know you're the hockey pro here. Has she done anything with hockey as the sports astrologer?
You know what? She may have, but honestly, I don't even know if I would know if she did or not, but not that I know of. I think she's mostly baseball and maybe some football, yeah.
And she lives in Queens, so she's very, very supportive on the New York Mets. And Again, she's very famous for that. But she's reading the star charts for astrology for the various different athletes that we have going on. So here we have kind of these two characters that are considered astronomer and astrologer. But really, if we're going to be objective, if we're going to be truly scientists in this show, we need to investigate these two terms from a more objective standpoint. And what we want to do here is we want to look at the definitions between these two sources here. And so we want to be, as I said, objective. We don't want to be biased. I know sometimes we can be a little bit biased, but we want to try to reduce our biasm as much as we can. So we're going to look at the definitions of these two things, astronomy and astrology, and we're going to look at them, one definition with the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and then we're going to look at the definition using what's called the Astrology Encyclopedia. That's kind of the go-to for definitions in the astrological world. So those that are interested in kind of looking at terminology and astrology, that's kind of the source. So let's take a look at astronomy first here. So here we have astronomy. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition here. So astronomy, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is the study of objects and matter outside the Earth's atmosphere and their physical and chemical properties. What do you both think? Do you think that's a pretty good definition for astronomy?
Yeah, I think so.
What about you, Justin?
I
like it. All right. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a pretty good definition for astronomy. It really goes into the details. It's the study of objects and pretty much everything outside of the Earth's atmosphere. That's what we study in astronomy. We study the universe. That's what we study in astronomy. We study the universe. And let's take a look at the Astrology Encyclopedia's definition for astronomy. So according to the Astrology Encyclopedia, astronomy is the science that deals with the heavenly bodies, their positions, motions, magnitudes, and conditions. So I'm going to open this up to you both. Do you think that's a good definition for astronomy from the astrology standpoint?
Yeah. Oh, he was muted.
I'm sorry. The science that deals with the heavenly bodies. You guys are going to go into that in more detail, aren't you?
I think so. I don't think it's the greatest definition, but it does say it's a science. It deals with the heavenly bodies, and that's kind of a classic term for things outside of the Earth's atmosphere, right? The heavenly things in the sky. And the idea of measuring the positions, motions, magnitudes, and conditions, that's very old school astronomy, right? Looking at the position of a star, getting its star's magnitude, its position. That's kind of an old school definition for astronomy, but it still checks out. So both these definitions do show a very similar definition between the two. One goes into a little bit more detail. The other one is kind of a little bit more classical, a little bit more old school, but I think both do check out when it comes to astronomy. So let's take a look at the next definition here for astrology. So this is what the Merriam-Webster dictionary says about astrology. Astrology is the divination of the supposed influences of the stars and planets on human affairs and events by their positions and aspects. So what do you all think? Do you think that's a pretty good definition for astrology?
Yeah.
It fits.
It fits? Yeah. It talks about this idea that there's a supposed influence on the stars on us, humans, right? And it's regarding to our position and aspects. Well, let's take a look at the Astrology Encyclopedia. Astrology Encyclopedia says that astrology is the science which treats the influence upon human characters of cosmic forces coming from celestial bodies. So what do you think about that definition?
I think that is an old definition of, what we would call astrology. A very old definition.
Do you all notice a difference between the two definitions? What stands out between the two definitions here we have?
The astronomy deals with like talking about the movements of the planets and the stars, versus astrology is saying it treats how the influences of those things upon humans.
So what's interesting is that the Merriam-Webster dictionary says it's the divination of the supposed influences, and the Astrology Encyclopedia says it's the science that treats the influence. Now we have a discrepancy here. One says it's a divination, one says it's a science. So the question is, and I think this is the kind of starting point of our program, is astrology a science? And that is the thing that we want to put to the test tonight. We want to see if we claim astrology as a science, then we need to look at what science is. And Jackie, let's quickly talk a little bit about the scientific method. That's something that we use today in science, right? And so if we're going to be good scientists in our show today, what are some of the practices that I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. What are some of the things that we can do to be good scientists? So we can, when we explore these claims, we can do it in a scientific way.
Well, the process for the scientific method is to make an observation, ask questions, form hypothesis, and or testable explanations. Make a prediction based on those hypothesis and test the predictions. And so, pretty much make questions, like, form a question and see if you can prove if you were right or wrong, and then keep testing and testing and testing. So try to find a way to disprove yourself until you are exhausting all possibilities.
So what you're saying here is that if we want to be good scientists, we need to come up with an idea and we need to test it a lot and a lot. And the more we test and the more outcomes we get that kind of share the similarities, then it becomes more possible for that hypothesis to be correct. But is it possible for us to have a hypothesis that could be wrong?
It is possible. And I do believe that many scientists look forward to being proven wrong if they are wanting to prove something, and then they figure out that something that they've believed for so long is wrong, then they're happy because then they can start discovering something new and exciting. Or at least that's how I am anyways.
No, I think that's a good way of looking at it. And so when we are investigating these astrology claims, we don't want to be right. We want to just see what's happening in the natural world. So if astrology is defined as a science, like it is in the definition, then technically it should be based off of what's happening in the natural world. If we're scientists and we're making observations and we're putting our claims in, and the claims could be considered our hypothesis, right? Our claims that we're going to mention here soon, then what we're going to see here is hopefully if the definition holds true, then astrology should be following what the trends are in the natural world, right? That should be the case. So now that we kind of have a good idea, and thank you, Jackie, for explaining that scientific method. Now that we have kind of an idea of how science works for our viewers here, let's take a look at some of those claims in astrology. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And we're going to go ahead and continue on. And right now we're going to take a look at the claims in astrology. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and bring up a claim, and then Jackie, using Stellarium, is going to explore many of these claims that are brought up in astrology. So we're going to again try to use the scientific method, the principles of science, to take a look at some of these things that are brought up in astrology. So the first claim I want to talk about here is that astrology is a science like astronomy, biology, and geology. Well, again, we talked about that, and in reality, I'm actually going to skip that one. That's the one I wanted to show, so that one should have been deleted earlier. That was from an older version. This is the first claim I wanted to talk about. The Zodiac is a band of constellations that both astronomers and astrologers use. Now, technically, this is a fact. We astronomers use the Zodiac, and so do astrologers as well. But this word Zodiac is kind of a big deal. A lot of times you see this written places, what's your Zodiac, right? Zodiac sign. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at the definition of Zodiac. And we're going to go based off of what the Astrology Encyclopedia says. And now, once we get the definition of what the Astrology Encyclopedia defines as the Zodiac, let's go ahead and take a look at what the Zodiac really is in the sky. So according to the Astrology Encyclopedia, The zodiac is a circle or belt which anciently was said to extend some 8 degrees on either side of the ecliptic. Oh, that kind of adds another term that we have to talk about, right? This term called the ecliptic. Yeah, so there's this belt or circle that extends across the sky between 8 degrees on either side of the ecliptic. Now, Jackie, what is the ecliptic and what is the zodiac? Can you go into a little detail? Let's explore this term here.
So the ecliptic is the imaginary line that the sun, moon, and all the planets travel across. And it's a very simple definition. And so the path that the sun takes across the sky every day, and then during the day and night when we see the moon, that's the same path it takes. It is sometimes higher in the summer, lower in the winter. I think that, and then the zodiac is the constellations that are on the ecliptic. And
but if you look at that definition, it says 8 or 9 degrees between that ecliptic. Is that something you can show in that in Stellarium and show that line of the ecliptic so our viewers can see what that is?
I think so. Let's see. Can you all see this?
Yeah, that looks great.
Wonderful. Okay, so this red line here, can you see my my mouse?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so this line right here is the ecliptic, and it's going through a couple constellations. I'm going to turn on the constellation labels so that makes things a little bit easier. And so we have a bunch of them. And it goes down here. I'm going to take off the ground so we can see where the sun was, because it's currently setting here in wonderful sunny Buffalo. And so, you know, it just goes all the way around, the earth.
So if we were to extend that 8 or 9 degrees from that line, so again, that line that you're seeing here is the path the sun. We'll go into more detail what this ecliptic is. So again, yeah, so over time, over the course, I guess, of the entire year, the sun will travel through that red line. And if we were to look at 8 or 9 degrees from that line, then wouldn't that include other constellations that are not part of that 12 signs? I mean, for example, if we were to extend 8 degrees below the ecliptic here, wouldn't that actually include Hydra and Sextants? And if we were to continue on, we would actually include Corvus and Crater and actually there would be tons of constellations that are 8 or 9 degrees between the ecliptic. So in reality, I mean, look at the serpents here. We keep going. You know, Lupus is part of that. You know, so we keep going. Aquila is part of that, and Aquilus, and again, there's just so many constellations. I think right now, if you were to actually take Pegasus as part of that, Triangulum, Cetus, I think there's over 24 constellations that actually fall in that zodiac belt that the astrologers claim is considered the zodiac. So the question is why are they only using 12 if their definition actually defines the zodiac as a belt that is said to extend 8 or 9 degrees from the ecliptic? Well, what's going on here? Well, if you were to actually talk to an astrologer, they will say that, well, what we really mean is we really mean the sign the sun is in. And if you want to go ahead and give me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the next part here. In the next definition is that what really these people are talking about is this thing called your sun sign. For example, how many of you have been on a date with somebody and that person comes up to you and says, hey, or you're on a dating website and they say things like, hey, so what's your sign? You know, for example, this girl here saying, well, just wanted to look up whether this goes well with Scorpio. There are people out there that do that. They want to know your sun sign. And they feel that there's some cosmological connection between people. But again, the zodiac isn't the definition we see based on, as Jackie showed in Stellarium, we can see that it doesn't actually fall in that nice evenly 12. So the question is, what's actually going on here? And well, when you talk to an astrologer, they'll say, really, it's the sun sign that matters the most. And so here we have this definition for sun signs. This is the sign of the zodiac. The sun is in. So that's the part that they really care about. They care about the sign of the zodiac the sun is in, particularly in a natal chart called the birth sign. So that's, the whole thing of I was born in June or I was born in September, and that's my sign. The sun, as the most important celestial body for Earth dwellers, so for those that are living on Mars, this isn't going to work for you apparently, is the most important influence in a horoscope. So when we look at our horoscope in the newspaper, this is the one that they are referring to. They are referring to your natal sign or your sun sign. So now that we kind of have a definition for the sun sign, let's go back to Stellarium and let's take a look at, if we can, Jackie, let's take a look at the sun and look at where that ecliptic actually falls through those constellations. So we're going to do this slowly here. So Jackie, what signs does it look like it actually goes through the sun over the course of the entire year?
Well, right here we have Aries, and then we have Taurus, and Gemini.
Okay, so far
it's
so
like
good.
Really close to Orion, but if you can see these, this red outline, do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, so
these
are the boundaries of the constellations in the sky. So they're kind of like the states of the sky, right? The boundaries between each region of the constellations.
And they're kind of like puzzle pieces too. It's like they fit together within the stars. So any star that's within this entire puzzle piece is in that constellation. So like even looks like this dead space that's out here at the far corner of Taurus is technically Taurus. So even though Orion is really, really close to the ecliptic here, with this boundary line, it would not be considered technically a zodiac sign, because it just only goes through Taurus. Then Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpius. And it kind of jumps over into another constellation here.
Oh, I see that. What's going on there?
That one's Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus? That sounds like somebody just sneezed.
Yeah, it's a very intimidating word, and I've said it too many times that it's not nearly as intimidating as it used to be. I think
that is interesting.
It's the serpent bearer. So, funny, real quick, my boss was from like downstate New York, and when he first told me about it, I thought he said a serpent bear, and I'm like, well, it's Greek. Okay, that makes sense. So
that's true. Yeah, they like to have weird, strange animals in their mythology, don't they? A serpent bear, that would be terrifying. Look,
right.
I don't want to see a serpent bear attacking me or anybody.
And Ophiuchus is technically usually with serpents, so that's the serpent that it's holding, but those are broken up into a different constellation. So serpents breaks up here and to here. So they broke it up when they made it so it's its own constellation now.
So before you continue on, so for those that are viewing here, we can see the boundary lines of Ophiuchus, and we can see that the ecliptic goes right through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even dodging. It's not like Orion where it was barely touching. This is literally going right through it.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of a leg in here, because I think it's supposed to be like the leg of Ophiuchus.
The foot. Yeah. So what else do we have in the zodiac here?
Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. It's really close to Cetus. And then we're back to Aries.
Barely touches it. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then we're back to Aries.
Okay, so thank you. So as we can see here, for those that are watching, you can see here that we're looking at the path the sun makes through the sky, and just while we have this going, and since we can kind of animate the sky, How about if we were to jump the sun to each, if you could somehow center on the sun. So if we could click on the sun and center that, so we get that locked in, I think it would be cool to watch the progress of the sun over the course of the year, just to verify. Because remember, in science, as Jackie said earlier, we need to do multiple tests, right? And so we can see here that when we look at this line, we can see that it goes through these constellations. But in reality, let's actually look at the timeline of the sun in real, and if we sped up time real fast. So let's go ahead and move month to month here and see where the sun is. So let's go ahead. All right. So you can see here that the sun has jumped a little bit. If we can go back to May again, just so we can kind of see the difference. So you can see that it looked like the sun was in, looks like it's in Aries right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go back to June. Now it looks like it's in Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do we got next?
Gemini.
Gemini. All right, so you can see, you're seeing here that the sun is moving from place to place. What do we got next?
August is Cancer.
Okay, August 7th, okay.
And then September is Leo.
Okay, great.
And then sun is dipping down because we're starting to get into the fall, so the sky is getting darker and we're losing sunlight. So
especially in Buffalo, you all get
we have 2 nice days and it snows the rest. So we have October is Virgo.
All right.
And then let me get it back up here. It's a little higher. So we're in November, Libra.
Okay. All right. So we're moving around.
And so December, this is Ophiuchus. Is that Ophiuchus? Yes.
Yeah. The boundary lines are a little dim on my side here, but I can kind of see them. Is there a way to brighten up those boundary lines at all, or is it?
I don't think so. Okay. I think this is as bright as I can get it.
Well, that's all right. Hopefully, but I can barely see them. But yeah, it looks like it's going right through there. All right, let's continue on our adventure across the year.
Okay, so 2020 is finally over, and now we're in January.
Happy New Year.
And so we're in Sagittarius now. And February, Capricorn. And then Aquarius for March. Go Pisces for April. We're in May, and we're in Aries.
All right, we're back at square one again. So, all right, so we can see here that we've done another test. And this test here is the motion of the sun through the sky. And we clearly see the sun is moving through these various constellations. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so if you want to go ahead, and there we go. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, that's really cool to be able to see that in real time and see those motions of the sun. So basically here, we looked at the sky, and we have, the astrologers will claim that there are 12 evenly spaced constellations in the zodiac. And while doing these experiments, we have found that there is actually another constellation in the zodiac. We've done it twice. We looked at the path of the ecliptic, and we looked at the path the sun actually was traveling in the sky. Now, of course, the real reason why the sun is moving is because we're moving around the sun. But so again, the reason is why are there 12 signs of the zodiac? And the answer to this actually dates back in time. Jackie, you mentioned earlier that, when we looked at our definitions, you said, well, a long time ago, astrology was kind of a science, right? I mean, it back then, astronomers like Ptolemy, who was a famous Greek astronomer, looked up in the sky and used tools like this, which kind of looks like a wooden sword, and was actually taking those measurements in the sky. And that's why I think astrologers like that classical definition of astronomy, because in astrology and astronomy back in antiquity were one and the same. And people like Ptolemy were the ones that were mapping out the stars from an astronomical way, but they were also relating astrology as this influence on our lives as well. And they were also creating all the various different things. And he actually wrote a whole book about this called Tetrabiblos that literally goes into all these details of what defines the zodiac, where does the first of the year begin. And in his work, the first of the year began when the sun is in Aries, and all that, which is really interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But he was the one that also divided the constellations of the zodiac into 12. And the reason why is because ancient Greeks did not like prime numbers. 13 is a prime number, cannot be divisible. 12, though, is very nice to work with. Mathematically, it's a great number. And so what he did is he decided to change the positions of the constellations, make more obscure regions of each constellation, and define them as 12 evenly spaced things. And in reality, what we're going to show you in just a few minutes here is, believe it or not, the constellations are actually not, the sun does not go through these constellations in an evenly distributed way. It's not going through Aries or Pisces or Scorpius in the same amount of time throughout the year. And we'll actually show that in Stellarium here. And we'll go kind of a day-by-day thing, and we'll see here in the regions that the sun might only go through a constellation in only 6 days or maybe a week. Not the nice 12 evenly spaced constellations we see with Ptolemy. But don't forget, Ptolemy got stuff wrong in the past. This whole thing of the Earth being in the very center of our universe. And again, he wanted everything to look perfect. There were perfect circles. Everything was mathematically designed perfectly. Astronomy in this day and age is not the case. The orbits are not perfect circles. Things are just not perfect. But in Greek mathematics and Greek astronomy, everything was perfect. And unfortunately, a lot of these ideas merged into Rome. But then we had the fall of the Roman Empire, the European Dark Ages emerged, and this kind of Western astrology idea kind of fell away for a little while, but was picked up again during the Renaissance. People started to get a little bit more into this stuff. They kind of had a revival of it. And unfortunately, you'll see here in just a few minutes that unfortunately they were reading books that were written by people 1,000, 1,500 years prior to them. So in reality, a lot of this stuff wasn't updated. One of the things that we came up with just recently is that imagine you found a laptop and it was running Windows 95, and if you could essentially upgrade all the hardware in the computer, you should upgrade to Windows 10. But unfortunately, you decide to still run it on Windows 95. That's essentially what these astrologers have done, is that they've taken books that were written a long time ago and they haven't updated the change of the sky. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to Stellarium here, and we're going to see that in the real sky, the constellations they're not perfect, are they, Jackie? They're not.
No, they're jigsaw pieces, and they're cutouts, and they're perfect to me because I love them. But mathematically speaking, and artistically speaking, they're kind of hacked together.
So if we continue to move along, we can see that look at the amount of time the sun goes in Taurus. I mean, it goes quite a ways, actually. And I would imagine it'd be probably maybe, a month or so of time. So if we were to speed up time, how long does it actually take to get through Taurus?
Okay, let's see. We're going to start May 13th.
All right. So Justin, are you there? You're going to be our math guy. You're going to tell me how long the days have been. So May 13th.
Okay, so that's June 20th. So
May 13th, June 20th. How many days, Justin?
A lot more than your average month.
Okay, so this is over a month. So that's crazy. What about Gemini? Let's start at Gemini. Let's see how many days the sun goes through Gemini.
I'm going to make the day just a little bit later, just so we don't have to see the full, sunlight of the sun. Maybe that'll help our eyes a little bit. So we're in Gemini on the first day of summer. So we're starting on June 21st. All right, that's July 20th.
So that is almost a month.
About 30.
Yeah, so that's about a month. So Taurus was a little bit more than a month. Gemini was about a month. What do we got? Cancer.
Okay, so July 20th. August 10th.
So that's less than a month.
Yeah, 19, 20 days.
So we have greater than a month, and less than a month. Let's do another. Let's go ahead and let's look at Virgo. I want to show Virgo is one of those that's really big. So let's go to the start of Virgo and let's count how many days the sun is in Virgo. And then there's one more I want to show everybody, and that's Scorpius. I want to show Scorpius is the next one. But yeah, let's do Virgo next.
September 16th.
September 16th.
And that is October 30th.
Wow. September 16th to the end of October. That is a huge amount of time that the sun is in Virgo. So we can, and then the last one I want to show everybody is...
Is that why there's so many Virgos?
Maybe. I think that's true. And that's why Virgos think that they're the best, right? And they always say, we're the best, right? Okay, anyways, we're not going to get into all that semantics here. But let's go to Scorpius real quick. And I want to count the number of days the sun's in Scorpius because this is, I think, one of the more interesting ones, in my opinion. Because, Scorpius, if you look in the horoscope, is, again, a whole month. But let's take a look and see how many actual days Scorpius, it's actually in Scorpius. So here we go.
Okay, so November 21st.
Okay.
And to November 29th.
November 21st to November 20th. So you're saying it's only 8 days.
Yeah.
So the sun's only in 8 days in Scorpius.
Yeah, because it's going through the smallest part of Scorpius.
Interesting. Okay. So we can see here now that that clearly is not evenly spaced, right?
Right.
And just for fun, how many days does it go through Ophiuchus?
Right. So we're starting in November 29th. December 17th.
So you said November 29th to, what was it?
December 17th.
Okay, so less than a month, but more than Scorpius. So that's interesting here. All right, well, great. Thank you, Jackie. So what we're seeing here with these experiments is we're seeing that by looking at the actual position, if astrologers define astronomy as people who measure the sky, and early astrologers like Ptolemy were ones that were actually taking these measurements to map out the position of the stars, we're doing what astrologers did back when they first started this whole stuff, and we're discovering that the sun actually doesn't really go through these things the way it should, and we're going based off the definitions that astrologers have given us in the Astrology Encyclopedia. So here's an interesting thing here. So right now we have discovered that based on our research, our scientific research, we've discovered that if we define the sun sign as the object or the constellation that the sun moves through, there are 13 actual constellations, and they are uneven. Some of them, some constellations the sun spends more time in those constellations than others. So Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpius, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, Capricorn, which we call it Capricornus, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. And this was all based off of what Jackie showed you in Stellarium, that here we have 13 signs. 13.
Now, Derek, We have a couple questions from the audience about the time that Ptolemy was looking at this versus now, and does Earth's precession affect what we're seeing maybe back then versus now?
You know, that person must be an astrologer, because we're actually going to talk about that next. So they must be time traveling. And so that's a great segue, Justin. How did you even predict that? We're going to talk about that next.
Hey, our audience is sharp, man.
They're sharp. All right. Yeah, well, so our viewers here, just to let you know, we're going to talk about that next. We have a master plan here. We all have a master plan. So according to the astrologer's horoscope, people born near the spring equinox are Aries. So Jackie, according to the astrologer's horoscope, if I were to look at the horoscope, people born near the spring equinox, which would be March 21st, are Aries. Is that true?
If we're looking at the horoscopes, then yeah, that would be true, I guess.
But what if we were to look at the sky in Stellarium? What would it actually show?
Well, do you want me to bring up Stellarium?
Let's bring out. You are the Stellarium master. Bring
All
up.
right.
Yes. Engage. No. Engage Stellarium.
All right.
So
we have the sun here. It looks like it's in Aries currently.
So if we were to set it to March 21st, which is the spring equinox, or around the spring equinox, where would it actually be today?
It would be in Pisces.
Wait a minute. So horoscopes. So according to the horoscope, it's in Pisces right now. Or according to the real sky, it's in Pisces, but according to horoscope, it's in Aries. Well, what's going on here? So the person that asked the question earlier was, is there a mechanism going on with the sky that could change the time, or that could change the time of year we see these constellations? Is there something going on, Jackie, that could be changing the stars or the time of year we see these constellations?
Like, it's not necessarily changing the stars, but it is precession. And it's mainly how our planet is facing things. So precession is, if you imagine the Earth is a ball and we stick a pencil through it. So we have it like there, and then we're spinning it like a top. And tops, they wobble. And so, but this wobble takes about 1,000 years to go through. And so this wobble, changes the position of where the sun is in the sky, where the constellations are, the celestial sphere around it. But it also changes our North Star. So we have a new North Star than they had several, like 1,000 years ago. And so right now it's on Polaris, but it used to be in Draco, Thuban. Yeah, used to be in Thuban, and before that it was Vega. So it goes through several North Stars because of precession, and so it also wobbles. So we have the sun is placed differently in the celestial sphere during different times of the year because of precession.
So the one thing that we can do in Stellarium is we've actually been able to mathematically model the position of objects and take into account to precession, this really long process of the wobbling of the Earth. And that not only changes our seasons, it also changes the time of year we see the sun and the constellations. So the one thing that's really cool about Stellarium is we can actually go back in time, and Ptolemy lived around 120 AD. So can we set the date to 120 AD?
Okay, 120 AD.
So we're at 1020.
Oh, excuse me. There we go.
There you go. Okay, so wait a minute. What's going on here now? Looks like
this is March, and it is almost in Aries, but it's still technically Pisces.
Now, of course, back in ancient times, they didn't have the precision we have today. So to somebody like Ptolemy, it would have looked like it was in Aries, right? Because it's pretty close to Aries, yeah. I would imagine. But if we go back and say, let's go to like maybe 580, if we just did 5. Well, now you can see it's starting to get into Aries. So it's a lot closer to Aries than it is today, right? I mean, again, if we go back to 2020, the sun is, is really is slowly itching closer and closer and closer to Aries as we get closer later in time. So you can see here as we move, we can see very, very slow. Again, this is a very slow motion. It takes 26,000 years for it to do this thing. You're going to see a slow drift of the position of the sun in the sky at certain times of the year. So yeah, as Jackie's going back in time, like, real fast, you can see that the sun is kind of itching slowly and slower and slowly towards Aries. So if we go back in ancient times, we can see that clearly the sun would have been considered Aries, but today it's drifted enough to where it's nowhere really close to Aries anymore. So what's really happening here is there's again, as I said, that analogy to like Windows 95 and Windows 10, that software hasn't been upgraded. In the case of astrology hasn't been updated. We haven't updated the position of the stars. And if you're going to make an accurate prediction based off of the position of the stars in the sky, a star chart, you probably should know where everything really is in the sky. And unfortunately, a lot of the star charts that are mapped out are things that were dated in antiquity, not in today's time. So that's one of the issues that we have to look at when we look at star charts is, are they updated? Are they actually truly reflecting the real sky at this time of year? Now, interestingly, my birthday is in early June. I'll just say, it's early June. So according to the horoscope, I'm a Gemini. So early June. I'm a Gemini according to that. But let's go to early June. Say June 6th. There we go. That's good enough. Well, wait a minute here. Gemini is way over there, and the sun clearly is in the sky in Taurus. What's going on here? And again, let's go to that date, June 6th, in, say, 5 BC, or 5 AD, whatever. Just go to 5.
And it's right in the middle of Gemini.
Yeah, that makes sense now. Okay, well, so when these star charts were made, these horoscopes were made, now we can see that back then, accounting for precession, back then when they were making all these star charts, they would have seen Gemini in the sky in June. So, Justin, what's your birthday? September, right?
September 28th.
So, do you know your zodiac sign on top of your head?
I was always right on the edge of Libra and Virgo, but Libra.
All right, so September 27th, right? 28th.
Yeah, it's
So
like I have one of the charts pulled up just so I can know, because I never know at the
So,
astrology.
Jackie, what does it say for Justin's birthday?
September 28th. It says Libra.
Okay, let's type in September 28th and let's take a look and see where it is, where the sun is. Where are we? Oh, wait a minute, Justin, you're a Virgo. You're one of them now.
See, everyone's a Virgo.
And so if we go to 5 AD, it would be, well, Virgo is a very big constellation.
It is.
So,
that's the thing, right? It's not evenly spaced.
yeah.
But you can see it straddled a lot. It's a lot closer to Libra now than it did.
Yeah.
So again, as you can see here, I wouldn't be surprised that somebody back in antiquity would have placed the sun in Libra on September 28th. Mm-hmm. And just for fun, again, Jackie, if you want to give us your close to your birthday, you don't have to be exact if you don't want, but do you? Let's take a look at what your what's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Leo, and I really like that because I'm also kind of obsessed with cats, so I'm kind of happy with being Leo. And it looks like it's right there in Leo, so
So sometimes there are some exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
So you're obsessed with cats, so clearly by the cosmic laws, you will be a Leo.
Right.
Or what?
And my hair does poof out too when I get I get stressed out. So
So, all right. So, what is it in 5 AD?
it was really close to Virgo, man.
Oh, so it's
I
actually
think
closer
Virgos
to
are everywhere.
Virgo back then than it is in Leo, but it's still technically in Leo.
Yeah.
And you know, so again, we can see with time changing and time dial, you know, with this precession happening, the position of the stars does in fact change. And let me go ahead and take a look here. I have a little list here on my my side of things. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at what your sign is really. This is the part of the show where we get to go through the various different constellations, and you get to find out what sign you really are. So now we're not going to go through all of them in detail. We picked some of the more famous ones, the ones that a lot of people are, you know, used to. So here we have Taurus the bull. There's our mighty bull in the sky. And the sun is actually in May 15th through June 20th. So that would be the time of year you would actually be defined as a Taurus. I know some of you are in the audience right now are probably ripping your hair out going, no, I am not a Taurus. I'm not one of those people. Well, we'll get into that a little bit later on as well. Gemini, the twins, and technically I'm a Gemini according to the horoscope, but technically June 21st to July 20th is when we actually have, if you're a Gemini. So yeah, just like we saw with Stellarium. Leo, so Jackie, you are a definitive Leo. As you can see here, there is some gap between the times here. So yeah, there you go. We have Scorpius. Now, as I said before, Scorpius, it's only in the sun for a very short period of time, unlike the full month that Ptolemy gave it. And of course, we have here Sagittarius, the Centaur, or the Archer, December 18th through January 19th is when the sun's actually in Sagittarius. And finally, Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. There he is. Now, Jackie, can you talk a little bit about them? Are you familiar with the mythology of Ophiuchus? Is there a cool story that we can tell about Ophiuchus?
I don't know too many stories, but I do know that Ophiuchus is associated with medicine because like it's very similar to the medical staff, but I know it has to do something with medicine, but I don't know the story as well. Do you happen to know the story or anything?
So, from what I understand, he was a medicine man, and he had the ability to heal people. And the gods got so upset with that because basically we needed Ophiuchus right now. We need Ophiuchus to show up and heal people from what's going on in the world. But Ophiuchus.
Wait, Derek. Right now we're having to deal with murder hornets, and now you're going to open this portal, and a serpent bear is going to come attack us.
No, he's going to heal us, Justin.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
No. He's going to protect us from the deadly hornets.
I hope you're
he
right.
Has that snake. A snake will eat the hornets, you know. So, but anyways, so he healed people so well, the gods didn't want these humans to become immortal. So they literally got rid of Ophiuchus. So what the story is telling you is that if you're really good at your job, you may get fired. You may get placed in the sky for all eternity. Anyways, so that's the story I've heard about Ophiuchus. But so yeah, the moral of the story is that well, no, actually, don't do what the moral of the story is, and that is to just not be lazy at your job. It just says that if you're too good at your job, you might be placed in the sky forever. But then again, you're immortalized as this amazing constellation in the sky. And again,
isn't that a goal for planetarians to get placed in the sky, though?
That would be really cool. If you were if you could be a constellation, what would you want your constellation to be?
I don't know. I think I really like Draco.
Draco?
I like a lot of things.
You like a dragon? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd want to be with Draco or something, or with the Andromeda Galaxy because it's just so pretty. So.
Oh yes. What about you, Justin? Where what would you want to be placed in the sky as?
I'd probably be more of like a Clyde Tombaugh versus this guy was an astronomer, discovers Pluto, and his ashes get sent there. So I'd probably go check out a planet maybe.
No, that's a
That'd be
good one
awesome.
too. Yeah. Yeah, I would have to be with you on that. I would want my stuff to be launched into space, and yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that one personally. And if you know, if you in the comment section, if you have a constellation you would like to be part of, or if you want to be, if you're placed in the sky, what would you be? Leave a comment in the comments there. So, all right. So you're an Ophiuchus if you're born on November 30th through December 17th. You are a serpent bearer. Now, according to this, you're a healer. You're somebody who may become a doctor, and you may save the world. So, if you're born between these dates, you could save the world. Everybody, just remember that, okay? And if you're not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're born. If you have a passion to help people and to cure what's going on in the world today, do it. You don't have to be. You don't have to actually do what I just said there. So Pisces, we have March 12th through April 18th. Aries, April 19th through May 14th. Capricornus, January 20th to February 15th. Aquarius, February 16th to March 11th. And then Cancer, we have July 21st to August 10th. Virgo, September 17th through October 30th. And Libra, October 31st to November 23rd. So as you can see here, if you are in this, you are technically based on what's happening in the real sky. Now, here's the thing though. Okay, you could have listened to all of this and you could say, hey, it doesn't matter. I'm a Libra, I'm a Virgo. It's just what I am. And that's okay too, because you know what? Believing in something is fun. That's what it takes, is to believe in this. But if we use science to try to show the positions of things in the sky, by using scientific method principles, we show that things have changed and all that. But here's another interesting study. Have you all heard about that psychological study where in the late 70s, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a psychology professor. Do you know about that, Jackie?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but it's 4 different letters, and it's supposed to be like what your career path should be and stuff like that. Is that the same thing?
Not. I think you're thinking of the Myers-Briggs.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
This was a study where a gentleman, and maybe this will go, oh yeah, aha moment for you. A gentleman had his whole class write down their birthday in an index card. And then they collected the index card, and the next day he would provide the horoscope for them. So then the next day he handed out the horoscope. Is it starting to come up?
Yeah, I'm starting to remember this. Yeah.
So you know what's happening, right? You know what's
I
going to
think so. Yeah.
Okay, so what's happening is that everybody gets their horoscope, they read it. Then he says, "Hey, raise your hand if this matches what you agree with. If you agree with this, raise your hand if you know." And most people pretty much raised their hand. There were a few people that didn't. And then they discovered later on that everybody had the same thing written down. So the long story short of it is that astrology is fun. We all can have the same attributes. We all can be friendly, but yet distant. We can all be angry, but yet loving. We can all be charismatic and outgoing. It's hard. Human nature is complicated. We're not just this thing. And even the Myers-Briggs, in my opinion, it's very hard. People love to label each other, but in reality, we're very complex, right? So, if you want to make this fun, if you want to have, if you want to believe that there's some cosmological influence in you, there's no harm in that. But when we use scientific principles, that's where it gets into a little haziness. Now, Jackie, what's really interesting, if you can bring up Stellarium again, what's really interesting is you don't have to take any of our words for it. As we showed you the science, we showed you the observations of the night sky, we looked at some astronomy, we looked at some concepts in astrology. But one of the things you can do at your home is you can test this for yourself. Now, when Ptolemy and the early astronomers are making these observations, and Jackie, can you put the ground back on? Because I think it's going to be important for people to see the horizon here. So
it'll also help me get my bearings of where I am.
There you go. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so if you could point over to the east, because what we're going to do is we're going to have you all do a homework science experiment. Yes, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do what the ancients did. And what you're going to do is you are going to, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the date of, let's go back to my birthday. My birthday is June 8th. So we're going to go back to June 8th here is my birthday. And so you see it's in Taurus. Now let's go back a month. Let's go back to May 8th. Let's go back to May 8th. All right. And let's bring the time down here a little bit. All right, right before. So as you can see, notice that the sun is actually moving further into Taurus a month before. Now let's go to a month after. Let's go to July 8th. As you can see here, as the sun has traveled across Taurus, it would have a month earlier, if we go back to June 8th, you would see that the sun's now in Taurus. So here's my homework assignment for you. This is how the ancients figured it out. First off, one of the requirements you have to know is your birthday. All right, you have to know your birthday. And what you want to do is you want to go 1 month after your birthday. So that would be July 8th for me. Then what you want to do is right before sunrise, identify the constellation that is just above the horizon. So if you can go to July 8th for me, Jackie, you can see here that Taurus is just above the sun at sunrise. So a month earlier, the sun would have been in Taurus at that time. So if we say go to Justin's birthday, which is September 28th, let's go to October 28th. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. So let's go to October 28th, and let's go to sunrise, closer to it. You can see here that what's rising at the horizon right now? Virgo. That was where the sun was 1 month prior to where 1 month prior to where the sun is today. That's how the ancients figured it out. And that's why to the ancients like Ptolemy, when they were making these observations, that's why they could get with it being, let's go back to 120 AD. And let's go to March 21st. And let's go to sunrise, right before sunrise.
Whoops.
So you can see here that right there is kind of where Aries is. So you can see that it's kind of straddling in Pisces and Aries. So now if we go to say March or April 21st, you can see here at sunrise, Aries would be just above the horizon. So that's how the ancients actually figured out the zodiac constellations. Is they looked at 1 month after the sun, because they watched the movement of the sun in the sky and the angle at which the sun moved, and they were able to predict the constellations the sun would be in from that position. So they were actually doing astronomy and they were doing astrology. So believe it or not, if you're going to be an astronomer and an astrologer, this is one of the things that you can do to predict events. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about real briefly, Jackie, you mentioned earlier that there's this thing called retrogrades. Notice that astrologers mention these things called retrogrades. What exactly is a retrograde?
It's as the planets are moving, and so they move in one direction, and the retrograde is where they start wandering back, like backwards.
So if we go back to 2020, is there any? If we were to kind of move time, is there any retrogrades coming up?
Let's see. It would probably. I think we'd probably be able to see it in Venus a little bit better, or Mercury, because that seems to be what I hear all the time. Right?
Definitely.
But like it would be a little bit easier to see it in those two planets just because they're closer to the sun and they move faster, especially Mercury. Mercury dances, like it's pretty hard to see Mercury all the time just because it's so close to the sun and it spins around, has the fastest year. So the time it goes once around the sun. So it just keeps jumping up and down in the horizon.
So what is the big deal about Mercury retrograde and all that from an astrologer standpoint?
I'm not completely sure, but like I think it's, you know, they seem to, maybe it's something about like they think that since Mercury is the messenger for the gods, you know, it's like bringing bad luck or something. It's like I'm not too completely sure, but I think maybe when it's used, it's like as an excuse of, oh, Mercury is in retrograde right now.
So basically, when something is changing, it's kind of a panic mode, like, oh my goodness, there's something changing that shouldn't be changing.
Yeah.
Everything should be kind of in constant motion. So it's kind of like a panic button kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe. Like that's what it seems to sound like. It's like I've tried looking it up before to try to, you know, understand the thought processes, but I just can't seem to.
Doesn't seem to be logical then.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
Sounds like a catch-all for chaos.
yeah.
I think so. And it's like I seem to hear something similar to that with like, oh, it's a full moon. You know, there's going to be some crazy people out here because of the full moon.
So it's kind of one of those things that people just throw out that they really don't know what it means per se. It's kind of kind of one of those old you know, old tales or whatever, old wives' tales or whatever they.
Yeah, like if I'm gonna throw my Facebook friends under the bus, usually I see my Facebook friends saying, "Oh, you know, teachers, here's the full moons for the year, you know, so you better watch out."
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there really is no big significant thing for the retrogrades, but we do know in astronomy that retrogrades are just based on the apparent motion of the planets in respect to the Earth. So that's all it really is. Essentially, imagine yourself in a car and you drive past somebody, you know, you're passing them on the highway and they look like they're moving backwards. Essentially, isn't that what that is? Is that it's essentially just the fact that as the Earth is orbiting around the sun, we may catch up to a planet or it may catch up to us and it might change how it goes. Kind of like with Mars here.
Yeah, so I'm going backwards in time, so I'm trying to find a good spot for it, but go ahead.
So essentially it's everything's moving in relationship to each other. And sometimes planets may stop and they may appear to move backwards. And so on. So that's an interesting observation. And Venus, as Jackie mentioned earlier, Venus and Mercury are the ones that seem to do this the most because they are closer to the sun and they're going around the sun a lot faster than we are.
And it is in relation to where we are in Earth and around our orbit and how we are viewing these other cars that are passing by us. And so it's like Mars is further out. It has a bigger orbit around the sun. And so it seems to move slower, but we still do have, you know, see it as we like catch up and surpass it all in our orbit around the sun.
Yeah. So pretty interesting. Now, Jackie, is there anything in the sky that you would like people that are viewing right now to see and to maybe go outside? I know here in Florida, and you said even in New York right now, it's really nice and clear out. Is there anything that you would want people to go and take a look at in the sky currently right now?
Well, in like it's, you know, clear-ish in Buffalo right now. Like it was pretty clear last night, and so I got some pretty nice pictures of the moon last night, and the sky had a nice pretty color to it. Let's see. I'm gonna see exactly what sort of things are up. I'm in a pretty light polluted area, and so I don't get to go outside very often. My favorite thing to always look at is the Andromeda Galaxy, just because, you know, you can see it with your naked eye. But right now it's under the horizon. But let me just see what's up right now.
Well,
And so
we were talking about Venus earlier. It looks like we have Venus up in the sky.
Yes, Venus.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, and so you will know it is Venus because it is the brightest thing in the sky after the sun and the moon. And just because it's so close to the sun and because it's mainly cloud cover. So it is a very bright planet. And so it's the first star you see at night. So it's, if I were to turn back the time to sunset, you can see it's the first star that comes out. But it is, it's really pretty and it's really dazzling if you get a chance to see it. And there's always clouds here because it's Buffalo. And I forgot what month we were in because it's only May. So we can still see Venus, and Venus will be up most of the night. See, it's with the sun right now. And then if you'll notice at sunrise, we do have several planets coming up too. I do really like looking at Hydra, Crater, and Corvus, just because I really like the story. But I'm pretty sure Hydra is the biggest constellation, or is that the river?
No, I think it is Hydra. Hydra is a very large constellation in the sky.
Yeah, because like it goes most of the south. And so I think it's so neat to be able to look at it, especially because we're in the northern hemisphere and we don't get to see very many cool things like the Magellan clouds. I think those I've never got to see those yet. I think maybe so there's a lot of really pretty things. We do have some really neat stars with star hopping. So if you go from the Big Dipper, so you can see the Big Dipper is upside down right now from my orientation, and that's in Ursa Major. If we follow the arc of the Big Dipper, we go to Arcturus, which is in the constellation Bootes. And then from there, we can arc to Arcturus and speed to Spica, and we jump around to Virgo. And so it's like a fun little easy constellation hopping you can do if you are just first going out into the night sky.
And those stars are visible even in light polluted skies, right?
Yes, those are two very bright stars. So Arcturus is an orange star and Spica is a blue star. And so these are two very bright stars. Virgo is a very dim constellation, so the only thing you'll really see is Spica. So, and Virgo is a very large constellation, but there's just a lot of really dim stars. So unless you're in a really, really dark sky, you won't really be able to see very much. I think if we continue on throughout the night, we get to see some of the summer sky. And I think it's really neat to be able to see the teapot in Sagittarius because we get to see our galactic center. And so it will be really close to the moon. So if you see the moon, you'll know that Scorpius is close to it. And you'll know it's Scorpius because of this bright red star, which is Antares. And I like to remember that it's Antares because it's anti-Aries, just because it's the rival of Mars. And so sometimes when Mars does get close to it, you get to see who is winning their battle because it's see which one is more red. And so it just depends on where the planet is in the solar system and how the atmosphere looks. But it's kind of cool to keep an eye out for if you ever get to that part. But it's kind of neat with the teapot because we have the handle, spout, and steam coming out of it, and I always thought that was kind of cool, especially with my old optical mechanical planetarium machine, because we didn't have any special effects I could do during night skies, but I could bring down the light pollution and show the steam coming out of the teapot. So and we do at around 1 a.m. we are seeing Jupiter, and then 2 we can see Saturn, and then Mars around 3 a.m. And so those are all the planets we can see currently. So just Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. The rest are with the sun. So just Mercury. So like we can only see 5 naked eye planets. And so those are the classical planets.
Awesome. So hopefully if you have a telescope at home and you're interested in staying up or getting up early in the morning, be sure to check out Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They are fantastic to see in the sky, and so I think it's wonderful, and encourage all of you to go outside and look up at the stars. And like I said earlier, when it comes to astrology, take some of the things to it. You do your own research, look up in the sky, question things. And, that's one of the most important things you can do, is to do your own research, to look up and to use the same techniques that scientists use to explore the world and the universe. So I hope, so what we're going to do now is, Justin, do we have any questions from the audience that we could answer for them at the moment?
I just pinged them one more time, but no questions at the moment. We can give them another minute or so to.
Okay, great. Yeah, so if you have a question, go ahead and leave a comment. And while we do that, now while we're waiting for questions, Jackie, I know that you've had some history with astrology, and eventually you visited a planetarium, and that kind of changed your views on things. Is there any chance you can talk a little briefly about that?
Sure. Yeah, so a long time ago, I've been in planetariums for about 10 years. And before that, I was a practicing pagan. And I still really, really enjoy and I love paganism, like, I have a soft spot for it. But I consider myself an atheist now, just because being in the planetarium for long periods of time and watching the planets dance around and knowing that they are not they're just heavenly bodies, but they're not celestial beings. They're not the gods. And so it's like, it dawned on me that it's like they're just planets, and it's like I know that they're just planets, but like I went through a lot of other things in my life that brought me to this moment. But going to the planetarium and studying astronomy and just being in love with the stars, it's like it helped me like start questioning things. It started to make me like start asking more questions and knowing that I could find the answers relatively quickly, and that if I just put a little bit of effort into it, I could figure out the answers. And it makes me a little sad sometimes that I don't have that wonder that magic is real and that I could do things to shape my destiny and all that. But at the same time, it's a little bit nicer to know that, like, I don't have a vengeful God upset with me, and that's why my life sucks. But it's like I don't like to pick on astrologers or anything like that, because I know where people are coming from. But at the same time, I do think some people could try just like take a step back, and it's like the world isn't, the whole universe isn't against you. It's like the universe is vast and we are small, but at the same time we are here for only a short period of time, and it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story if we can make it. But it's just
yeah. And I think no matter what you believe, I believe, I think that's a good way of thinking about it, is we're here, we exist, let's enjoy the natural world that we are in and appreciate that. I think that's a great way of ending this program is, explore, be curious, curious. What did that come from? Being curious and just enjoy life. And I think that's a great way of doing it. And Justin, do we have any questions before we end, or anybody from the Peanut Gallery?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, Jackie, we want to thank you again for coming out and joining us today and sharing your ability to your knowledge of the sky, and your expertise with Stellarium, and showing us some of the cool things we can do with Stellarium and investigating astrology. Is there anything that you would like to share about your facility, your work, and anybody who's watching maybe might want to learn about what you all do, and anything else you want to mention before we end?
It's, I am currently at a planetarium that's in a school district, so a high school. So it's mainly I do community education with them. Before that, I was at a planetarium in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but that planetarium is gone now. So it's like I've used a little bit of everything. Both planetariums had a SPITS, an optical mechanical machine. This one here also has digital sky, so I get to have a full dome system. So it's like we do a little bit of everything. But if anybody is from the Buffalo area that's watching this, we are trying to do more virtual planetarium programs. But if things ever go back to normal, we always have community education programs, and anybody's welcome to come as long as you sign up for the programs online.
Excellent. And what we'll go ahead and do is we'll make sure to post that link on our comment section here. We'll also give a shout out to you. So again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I want to let all of you know that are watching, we are continuing doing these every Thursday at 7 p.m. Next week. We're going to explore a lot more of the night sky with our Central Florida Nights program. So please join us for that. And tomorrow night, Justin, you want to talk about tomorrow night, what we got going on with our virtual star party?
Well, yes, we've got more good weather.
Awesome.
Finally.
More good weather.
I don't know if we can beat last Friday. Last Friday was, wow, if you guys saw that show.
We were almost to 4 hours on our
Yeah, when you've got clear skies and Frank's telescope, we see some pretty cool stuff. But we've got clear skies again tomorrow night, and we've got a special guest from the Central Florida Astronomical Society, Barbara Harris. We're going to be talking about variable stars. And while Barbara's educating our guests on variable stars and how important they are in measuring the distances of stars in our galaxy, we are going to be looking at some more really cool things in the night sky. So tune in for that, and you will be blown away by these images coming back through the telescope. These are live telescope views of the night sky. We're looking at galaxies and nebula that are 20, 30 million light years away. So we're going to have some more fun with that.
And what time is that, Justin?
We're starting at 9 o'clock Eastern, so 9
o'clock Eastern. So we hope to see you there.
Find us right back on Facebook.
Exactly. We hope to see you there. And of course, as always, we record these and post them to YouTube. So if you aren't able to join us, we'll see you on YouTube. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like our Facebook and share that to all those. We love to keep exploring the universe and sharing our passions, and of course, collaborating with wonderful people throughout the world, and working on and sharing the universe with all of you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you all